In his recent inauguration speech on January 20, 2025, President Donald Trump made headlines by praising William McKinley, the 25th President of the United States. This marked an unusual revival of interest in McKinley, particularly in the context of modern Republican ideology, where he was celebrated for his economic policies and territorial expansion during his presidency from 1897 until his assassination in 1901. Who was William McKinley? William McKinley, born in 1843 in Niles, Ohio, served as a U.S. Congressman, governor of Ohio, and ultimately as president. His administration is often characterized by significant economic and territorial developments. Notably, he was a strong advocate for protective tariffs, which were designed to shield American industries from foreign competition. McKinley's economic policies, particularly the McKinley Tariff Act of 1890, earned him the moniker Napoleon of Protection. This act significantly raised tariffs on imports, aiming to promote domestic manufacturing but also leading to increased prices for consumers and strained international trade relations. McKinley's presidency also coincided with the Spanish-American War in 1898, a conflict that resulted in the U.S. acquiring territories like Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. These events marked a pivotal moment in U.S. foreign policy, reflecting a desire for expansion and asserting American influence on the global stage. McKinley's administration is often viewed as a period of transition towards a more interventionist U.S. foreign policy. Trump's praise for McKinley. In his inauguration speech, Trump articulated a vision that resonated with McKinley's legacy. He emphasized McKinley's adeptness in enriching the nation through tariffs and his leadership in expanding American territory. Trump stated, "President McKinley made our country very rich through tariffs and through talent," highlighting the economic philosophy that both leaders shared. Furthermore, Trump promised to restore the name of North America's tallest peak from Denali back to Mount McKinley, asserting a cultural connection to the former president. Trump's remarks were not merely nostalgic, they served to align his administration's policies with McKinley's. For example, Trump has consistently advocated for tariffs as a means to protect American jobs, paralleling McKinley's protective economic stance. The former president's admiration for McKinley also extends to a vision of territorial expansion, as Trump expressed desires to reclaim control over the Panama Canal and even proposed the acquisition of Greenland. These ambitions reflect a broader theme of American exceptionalism and a return to a more aggressive foreign policy stance. The critique of Trump's alignment with McKinley. However, Trump's embrace of McKinley has not gone unchallenged. Critics have pointed out the contradictions inherent in his admiration for a president who was historically opposed to the populist movements that Trump often claims to represent. The original populist movements of the late 19th century sought to address the grievances of farmers and laborers against powerful industrialists and banks. McKinley, on the other hand, was seen as a champion of the business elite, and his policies often favored corporate interests over those of the working class. Political commentators have noted that while Trump may laud McKinley for his tariff policies, the original populists viewed such tariffs as detrimental to their interests. The tariffs were perceived as benefiting wealthy industrialists at the expense of consumers and small farmers, leading to increased prices and economic hardships for the very groups that populists aim to support. Legacy and historical context. McKinley's legacy is mixed. He is often ranked as an average president in historical assessments. While his policies contributed to economic growth, they also elicited significant political backlash. The McKinley Tariff Act, for instance, faced criticism for its long-term negative effects on trade relations and consumer prices. McKinley's involvement in the Spanish-American War and subsequent territorial acquisitions also sparked debates about imperialism and American identity. Trump's focus on McKinley suggests a strategic attempt to reshape contemporary Republican ideology around themes of protectionism and expansionism. By invoking McKinley as a model, Trump may be seeking to consolidate support among his base, particularly those who favor a return to more aggressive economic and foreign policies. Conclusion. Trump's homage to William McKinley during his inauguration represents a significant moment in American political discourse, intertwining the historical legacies of two leaders whose policies and philosophies resonate in different contexts. While McKinley's approach to tariffs and territorial expansion reflects aspects of Trump's agenda, the historical complexities surrounding McKinley's presidency raise questions about the authenticity of Trump's populist claims. As Trump navigates his second term, the invocation of McKinley may serve both as a rallying cry for his supporters and a point of contention among critics, illuminating the ongoing tension between populism and elitism in American politics. William McKinley, the 25th President of the United States, has recently re-emerged in political discourse, particularly highlighted by President Donald Trump in his inauguration speech. This resurgence is notable for several reasons, including McKinley's policies and the context of their discussion in relation to contemporary political ideologies and economic strategies. McKinley's policies and Trump's admiration. 1. Tariffs and economic policies. President Trump praised McKinley for his strong advocacy for tariffs, suggesting that McKinley's policies were instrumental in enriching the United States. McKinley was referred to as the Napoleon of protection for his efforts in enacting the McKinley Tariff Act of 1890, which aimed to protect American industries by imposing significant taxes on imported goods. Trump's admiration for McKinley's tariff policies reflects his own protectionist stance, which has been a cornerstone of his economic ideology. However, the counterintuitive aspect arises here. While tariffs are typically viewed as beneficial for domestic manufacturers, they often lead to increased prices for consumers and constrain international trade relations. This contradiction between immediate economic protection and long-term consumer impact presents an ironic tension in both presidents' legacies. 2. Territorial expansion. Trump drew parallels between McKinley's expansionist policies and his own ambitions regarding U.S. territorial control. McKinley oversaw significant territorial acquisitions during the Spanish-American War, including Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. Trump's rhetoric about reclaiming control over the Panama Canal and his interest in Greenland echoes the same themes of expansionism. However, the counterintuitive nature of this admiration lies in McKinley's own hesitations about the burdens of empire. He reportedly expressed regret over the costs associated with maintaining these territories. This self-awareness contrasts sharply with Trump's more aggressive territorial assertions, revealing a complex relationship between historical admiration and present-day policy ambitions. 3. Historical context and populism. Trump's alignment with McKinley raises questions about the authenticity of his self-identified populist stance. McKinley was a staunch opponent of the populist movements of his time, which sought to address the grievances of economically marginalized groups. Critics argue that Trump's admiration for McKinley undermines his populist image, as McKinley's policies primarily favored large businesses over the working class. This irony is compounded by Trump's portrayal of himself as a populist leader while he venerates a president who represented the interests of the establishment. The juxtaposition of these identities exposes the complexities and contradictions within contemporary populist narratives. 4. Legacy and public reception. McKinley's historical assessment is mixed. He is often regarded as an average president, and his tariff policies led to significant political backlash. Trump's praise for McKinley might be seen as an attempt to reshape Republican ideology around protectionism and expansionism, yet this raises the question of whether such a strategy can resonate with a broader electorate that may view McKinley's legacy with skepticism. The counterintuitive element here is that while Trump seeks to align himself with McKinley's successes, he may inadvertently invoke the historical criticisms that have shadowed McKinley's presidency. The inauguration speech and strategic implications. In his inauguration speech, Trump stated, "President McKinley made our country very rich through tariffs and through talent." This statement, while intended to draw a direct line between McKinley's successes and his own policies, glosses over the complexities and consequences of such economic strategies. Trump's plan to restore the name Mount McKinley and his comments on reclaiming the Panama Canal illustrate a broader ambition to invoke historical figures to legitimize contemporary policies. The discussion surrounding McKinley also highlights Trump's intentions to frame his presidency within a narrative of national pride and expansion. However, the counterintuitive aspect lies in the historical context of McKinley's presidency, which included significant challenges and criticisms. While Trump attempts to use McKinley as a model for his administration, the historical nuances may not align neatly with modern political aspirations. Conclusion: Trump's admiration for McKinley during his inauguration speech serves as a strategic pivot toward protectionist and expansionist principles. However, this alignment reveals complex counterintuitive dynamics, including the contradictions between populist rhetoric and the realities of McKinley's policies, as well as the historical complexities of territorial expansion. As Trump seeks to reshape contemporary political narratives around McKinley's legacy, the nuances of history may complicate his efforts, illustrating the challenges of drawing lessons from the past to inform present-day governance. In President Donald Trump's inauguration speech on January 20, 2025, he notably praised William McKinley, the 25th President of the United States, which has stirred considerable discourse about the implications of this admiration. While many observers focus on the familiar themes of tariffs, territorial expansion, and McKinley's historical context, several important aspects of this relationship are often overlooked, which hold significant implications for both Trump's policies and the broader political landscape. Key themes and overlooked insights. 1. Historical revisionism and symbolism. Trump's decision to highlight McKinley represents a form of historical revisionism that seeks to reshape the narrative around the Republican Party's past. By restoring the name Mount McKinley from Denali, Trump not only appeals to a sense of nostalgia but also aligns himself with a specific interpretation of American greatness linked to economic protectionism and territorial expansion. This act symbolizes a reclamation of American identity that resonates with his base, reflecting a yearning for a time when the U.S. was viewed as an unequivocal global power. 2. The complexity of tariff policies. While Trump's admiration for McKinley is largely anchored in his tariff policies, the complexities surrounding these tariffs are often overlooked. McKinley's tariffs, while initially beneficial for certain American industries, led to significant backlash, including rising consumer prices and strained international relations. This historical context serves as a cautionary tale. Tariffs can have unintended consequences that may undermine the very economic stability they aim to create. Trump's push for similar policies could thus provoke similar challenges, prompting questions about their long-term viability and impact on the average American consumer. 3. McKinley's reluctance versus Trump's aggression. A critical yet overlooked aspect of McKinley's presidency was his ambivalence towards imperialism and territorial expansion. Despite overseeing the acquisition of Guam, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines, McKinley expressed regret about the burdens of maintaining these territories. This contrasts sharply with Trump's assertive rhetoric regarding the Panama Canal and Greenland, raising questions about the sustainability of Trump's aggressive territorial ambitions. Historically, McKinley's hesitations suggest that the burdens of empire can lead to significant political and social unrest, a nuance that could be relevant to contemporary discussions about American foreign policy. 4. Populism and anti-populism. Trump's invocation of McKinley presents a paradox, particularly considering McKinley's historical role as an adversary to populist movements of the late 19th century. The original populists sought to address the grievances of working-class Americans against powerful economic interests, a mission that stood in stark opposition to McKinley's policies that favored big business. This contradiction raises important questions about the authenticity of Trump's self-identified populism. By aligning with McKinley, Trump risks alienating the very working-class voters who are often central to populist rhetoric, highlighting a tension within his political identity. 5. Economic and labor relations. McKinley's administration is often critiqued for its stance against labor movements exemplified by federal interventions to suppress strikes. This historical precedent is significant when considering Trump's own labor policies, which critics argue have been hostile to unions and worker rights. The similarity in their approaches to labor relations underscores a broader narrative that economic protectionism does not inherently translate to labor-friendly policies. This raises the risk of disillusionment among working-class voters who may have expected a more supportive approach to labor rights from a self-proclaimed populist leader. 6. Patriotism and national identity. Trump's praise for McKinley taps into a broader theme of American exceptionalism and national pride, which is often leveraged to galvanize support among patriotic voters. However, the nuanced realities of McKinley's presidency, marked by contentious wars and imperialism, invite critical examination of what it means to celebrate such a figure. This focus on a singular narrative of American greatness risks oversimplifying complex historical realities and may obscure the darker legacies of imperialism and militarism that accompany such nationalism. Conclusion. Trump's admiration for William McKinley during his inauguration speech is emblematic of a strategic alignment with historical themes that resonate with his base, particularly around tariffs and territorial expansion. However, the significance of this relationship extends beyond mere policy parallels. It invites scrutiny of the complexities and contradictions inherent in both McKinley's and Trump's political ideologies. By examining these overlooked aspects, historical revisionism, the nuanced impacts of tariffs, the complexities of imperialism, and the tensions within populism, we gain a deeper understanding of the implications for contemporary American politics and the potential challenges that lie ahead. This analysis serves as a reminder that history is not merely a series of events but a living narrative that shapes and is shaped by the political figures who invoke it. 1. Tariffs and economic policies. President Trump's admiration for McKinley is significantly rooted in McKinley's tariff policies, which aim to protect American industries and increase national wealth. McKinley's push for tariffs, exemplified by the McKinley Tariff Act of 1890, earned him the moniker Napoleon of Protection. This connects directly to Trump's own pro-tariff stance, suggesting a continuity in Republican economic policy that prioritizes domestic manufacturing over international trade. However, both presidents faced the criticism that tariffs, while initially beneficial for certain sectors, often led to increased consumer prices and strained trade relationships. The historical context of McKinley's tariffs provides a lens through which to analyze the potential implications of Trump's economic policies and their reception by the public and international community. 2. Territorial expansion and nationalism. Trump's references to McKinley's territorial ambitions highlight a shared vision of American exceptionalism and expansionism. McKinley's administration oversaw the acquisition of territories like Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines following the Spanish-American War. In contrast, Trump's ambitions seem to echo this sentiment through his interest in reclaiming the Panama Canal and even acquiring Greenland. This comparison raises questions about the legitimacy of such territorial claims and the implications for U.S. foreign policy. It also reflects a historical pattern of American nationalism that seeks to assert dominance on the global stage, paralleling the expansionist rhetoric of the late 19th century. 3. Populism and historical contradictions. Trump's admiration for McKinley presents an inherent contradiction, especially concerning Trump's self-identified populist image. McKinley was a staunch adversary of the original populist movements that aimed to address the grievances of the working class against wealthy interests. Critics argue that Trump's alignment with McKinley undermines his populist claims, highlighting a disconnect between Trump's rhetoric and the historical realities of McKinley's policies that favored big business. This tension invites a deeper examination of what populism means in contemporary politics and how it is utilized by leaders to resonate with their bases while potentially contradicting their stated values. 4. Legacy and contemporary political strategy. McKinley's mixed legacy provides a backdrop for understanding Trump's strategic invocation of his name. while McKinley is often regarded as an average president. Trump's focus on him may signal a broader intention to reshape Republican ideology around protectionism and expansionism. This rebranding efforts may cater to the sentiments of Trump's support base, which favors strong nationalistic policies. Analyzing how Trump's references to McKinley inform his political strategy could illuminate the ways in which historical figures are appropriated in contemporary political narratives to galvanize support and legitimize current policies. 1. The assassination of President William McKinley 1901. McKinley's presidency was abruptly ended when he was assassinated by anarchist Leon Czolgosz during a public reception in Buffalo, New York. This event had profound implications for the United States, leading to the presidency of Theodore Roosevelt and a shift in national policies, particularly towards imperialism and progressive reforms. The assassination also sparked debates around national security and anarchism, echoing contemporary concerns about political violence and extremism. 2. The Spanish-American War 1898. This conflict marked a significant turning point in U.S. foreign policy as it resulted in the U.S. acquiring territories like Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. The war was fueled by a mix of humanitarian concerns, imperialistic ambitions, and the explosion of the USS Maine. The outcomes of the war led to debates about America's role on the global stage and its responsibilities towards newly acquired territories, a theme that resonates in current discussions about American interventionism and territorial expansion. 3. The populist movement 1890s. Emerging from the struggles of farmers and laborers, the populist movement sought to address economic inequalities and curb the influence of big business in politics. The movement's goals contrasted sharply with McKinley's policies, which favored industrial and corporate interests. The clash between the populists and McKinley highlighted the deep class divisions of the era and set the stage for future political realignments in the United States, reflecting ongoing tensions between populism and elitism in American politics today. In his recent inauguration speech, President Donald Trump expressed admiration for William McKinley, the 25th President of the United States, highlighting aspects of McKinley's presidency that resonate with his own political agenda. This renewed focus on McKinley raises intriguing questions about the future trajectory of Trump's administration and its potential impacts on both domestic and foreign policies. Predictions for the future: Trump's policies inspired by McKinley. 1. Protectionist economic policies. Trump's praise for McKinley's tariff policies suggests a strong future emphasis on protectionism. Expect the administration to implement or propose new tariffs aimed at bolstering domestic manufacturing. This could lead to a trade war with countries that retaliate, echoing past conflicts stemming from similar policies. While Trump's supporters may benefit in the short term, economists warn that such policies may drive up consumer prices and strain international trade relations, potentially leading to a recession. 2. Territorial expansion and military posturing. Trump's references to reclaiming the Panama Canal and his interest in acquiring Greenland indicate a future marked by aggressive territorial ambitions. These actions could lead to heightened tensions with both China and Denmark, as Trump uses rhetoric reminiscent of McKinley's expansionist mindset. This could manifest in military maneuvers or diplomatic pressure reminiscent of imperialistic strategies from the late 19th century. 3. Revisiting historical narratives. Trump's decision to restore the name Mount McKinley is part of a broader strategy to reshape historical narratives around American exceptionalism. This could lead to increased emphasis on traditional American values, potentially marginalizing contemporary multicultural perspectives. Expect ongoing debates regarding the reinterpretation of American history as Trump seeks to align historical figures with his administration's goals. 4. Divisive political climate. The invocation of McKinley's legacy may deepen divisions within the Republican Party, especially as Trump positions himself against populist sentiments that have gained traction in recent years. Criticism of Trump's alignment with McKinley, who was seen as an adversary of original populist movements, could lead to factionalism within the party. This may hinder legislative efforts and create a more contentious political environment. 5. Impact on labor relations. McKinley's administration was marked by hostility towards labor movements, a trait Trump has also exhibited. Future policies may continue to favor corporate interests over labor rights, potentially leading to increased worker unrest. Labor organizations might mobilize in response, resulting in a resurgence of strikes and protests reminiscent of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. 6. Foreign policy challenges. Trump's admiration for McKinley's military actions, particularly the Spanish-American War, suggests a future foreign policy that may prioritize military interventions. This could lead to a resurgence of U.S. military presence in various regions, particularly in areas where American interests intersect with geopolitical tensions. Expect increased military funding and a more hawkish approach to international relations. 7. Cultural and educational implications. Trump's rhetoric about America's education system may lead to significant changes in educational policies, emphasizing patriotic education that aligns with his interpretation of American history. This could result in curricular changes that prioritize conservative values, potentially sparking backlash from educators and progressive groups advocating for inclusive education. 8. Long-term economic consequences. While McKinley's tariff policies initially benefited some sectors, they ultimately led to economic challenges. If Trump pursues similar policies, the long-term economic consequences could mirror those of the past, leading to instability in markets and increased costs for consumers. The administration may face pressure to adapt or reverse these policies if the economy falters. 9. Revival of nationalism. Trump's embrace of McKinley could signify a broader revival of nationalism within the Republican Party. Expect an increased focus on America First policies, fostering a climate that prioritizes national interests over global cooperation, potentially isolating the U.S. from international alliances and trade agreements. Conclusion. The future outlook following Trump's inauguration and his praise for William McKinley indicates a potential return to protectionist and expansionist policies reminiscent of the late 19th century. As these themes play out in both domestic and foreign arenas, they may reshape the political landscape, provoke public debate, and redefine the Republican Party's identity. The interplay between historical admiration and contemporary challenges will be crucial in determining the effectiveness and longevity of Trump's agenda.